people online into our gathering here. So in a moment we'll begin, and I'll be inviting people to light candles along with us at home. And then we'll join together with the Shalom Aleichem in just a moment. And the Shalom Aleichem will be in the Siddur in a moment on page number 5. So, Gadiel, we ready?
Yeah, here, sir.
Shabbat Shalom, welcome. We invite you to light candles. You're at home, and later near the end of the service, we'll be making Kiddush and Hamotzi, and so we invite you to prepare a glass of wine and a piece of bread for Kiddush and Hamotzi along with us at the end of the service. For now, we begin, and those so inclined are invited to rise at this time as we light the Shabbat candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'zikner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Lord our God, sovereign of the universe, who has made us holy with the commandment to light the Shabbat flame. And Shabbat flame comes into the synagogue and also comes into your homes, and your homes and our shul are now a merged home. And we begin with Hine Ma Tov. This is by a woman named Sue Hurwitz. Hine Ma Tov, how beautiful it is for us to all come together. Hine Ma Tov.
Hine Ma Tov, Hine Ma Tov, Umanaim, Umanaim. Shever achim, shever achim, gam yachad. Hine ma tov, hine ma tov, umanaim, umanaim. Shever achim, shever achim, gam yachad. As we travel along the path of our lives, it's the people we meet who can change us. If we are willing to see, truly open our eyes, we'll find a song within that binds us together. Hine ma tov, hine ma tov, umanaim, umanaim. Shever achim, shever achim, gam yachad. As we travel along the path of our lives, it's the people we meet who can change us. If we are willing to see, truly open our eyes, we'll find a song within that binds us together.
And now we sing the Shalom Aleichem. In the Siddur on page number 5, angels are waiting for us to sing to them. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Bimelech Malachei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu leShalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malachei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malachei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now on page number 11, Lechuna Ranana. Page 11. Lechuna Ranana Ladonai Nari Alitzur Yishenu Nekad Mafana B'Torah Bizmiro Nari Alo Nekad Mafana B'Torah Bizmiro Nari Alo Ki El Gadol Adonai Melech Gadol Al Kol Elohim Asher B'Yado Mecharei Aretz V'Toafot Harim Lo Asher B'Yado Mecharei Aretz V'Toafot Harim Lo. The last stanza, the English on the facing page. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. Turning the page. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted like the people at Merivah, like that time at Massah in the desert, when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my way. So in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. Asher nishbati v'apim yavon el menuchati. And looking at the bottom of this stanza here, you see on the English page, Psalm 95, and then you turn the page and you're on Psalm 96, and you continue on and you're on page 16, which is Psalm number 97. These are psalms which are religious poems, and there's a well-known psalm which calls out to me this evening. It's Essa Einai. This is from Linda Glasser, a more contemporary melodic composition. The phrase from the book of Psalms is, I lift up my eyes to you, O God. I need your help. I need a sense of your closeness. And where are you, God? You are the one, Osir Shemayim V'Aretz, maker of heaven and earth, and you're as close to me as my own voice calling out. Essa Einai.
I lift my eyes, I'm searching from inside, exposing no place to hide. Like shadows in the darkness, reflecting in the night, like dances on a mirror, I cannot hold the light. I lift my eyes, I'm searching to know wrong, do right, and my lips recite. My days become a lifetime, my life becomes a daze. The path I once chose clearly now feels like a maze. Searching for an answer to the mountains I gaze, and I'm singing your praise.
And turning to page number 18 of the English side, it's the last stanza. Let the sea and all that is in it roar, the earth and all who inhabit it thunder. Let rivers clap hands while mountains sing in harmony, greeting Adonai, who comes to judge the earth, judging the world with justice and the nations with truth. This psalm, like Esaenai and many, teach the message that the world itself is speaking to God and speaking along with us. And when we call out to God with the psalms, our voices are added to nature itself. On page number 21. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod v'oz, Havul Adonai kavod shemo, Hishtachavu Adonai b'hadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai al amoyim el kavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai koach, kol Adonai behadar, kol Adonai shover arazim, vayshaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, vayarkidem kmo egel, Lebanon v'Sirion kmo v'nreimim, kol Adonai chotzev lahavot eish, kol Adonai yachil midbar, yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, vayechesof ya'arot uvehechalot kulo amer kavod, Adonai lamabul yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz li'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. And now L'Chadodi on page 23, the first two stanzas, page 25, the last two stanzas. L'Chadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'Chadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmiyanu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shem otif eret v'lit hila, l'chadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor ha-bracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machashava t'chila, l'chadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Yamin o small tifrotzi, v'et Adonai taritzi, al yarish ben partzi, v'nismicha v'nagila, l'chadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, l'chadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. And as we're seated on page 27, the Psalm for Shabbat. A little bit in English, Hebrew, and then the rest in English. Mizmor shir leyom ha-Shabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lahagid baboker chasdecha, ve'emunatcha baleilot, alei asor v'alei navel, alei higayon bechinor. Mizmor shir liyom ha-Shabbat, tov lodot l'Adonai, olezamer l'shimcha elyon, olezamer l'shimcha elyon. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand. The fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. On page 28, surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age, they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. The righteous flourish like the date palm is the conclusion of this psalm, which is associated with Shabbat, Friday night and Saturday morning. In some synagogues, Friday night once, Saturday morning once. In some synagogues, actually Friday night once and Saturday night twice. Because the psalm is teaching the message, Jewish tradition views us all as being in God's own home, invited in. If you were to picture being a guest, a very much at-home guest in God's own home, what would that say about who you are inside yourself? God says, come on in. Set yourself down for a spell. Be at home here. What an honor it is to be that close with God, the creator of the universe. Tonight we're adding a contemporary piece. It's Anachnu Mevorachim. It's on the soundtrack that Dave will be leading with us in just a moment. Anachnu Mevorachim, which literally means we are the blessed ones. Anachnu Mevorachim, we are the blessed ones. Gadiel.
Other. We are blessed to have eyes to see the good in the world. We are blessed to have ears to hear the words of love. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. Anachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. We are blessed to have time to understand. We are blessed to have choice, to live where we want to live. We are blessed to have voices, to sing this song of Nachnu, Vorachim, Lavod, Ohavim, Nachnu, Vorachim, Lavod, Ohavim. We are blessed to have life, live in freedom. We are blessed to have hearts to love each other. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. Nachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. Nachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim. Nachnu vorachim v'lavod ohavim.
The Siddur sees us as being blessed. We rise on page 39a. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Hamavorach Leolam Voed. And now seated, the first bracha of the evening service, the first official blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El chai v'kayam, tamidim lochalein olam voed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. On page 40, you see the passage here on the Hebrew side. And it begins with Ahavat Olam, and in the red transliteration, Ahavat Olam, and it's a paragraph of 14 lines perhaps. And you might ask, how am I supposed to know what this means if I don't know the Hebrew? And the answer is, when in doubt, look at the last sentence. When in doubt, look at the last sentence of any given paragraph, and more than likely, you'll see Baruch Atah. And if you find Baruch Atah at the end of any paragraph in the prayer book, then you know that's the main idea. Blessed are your God, Ohev Amo Yisrael, who loves God's own nation, the people of Israel. And so the essence is found here this evening on the English side, the little red arrow. Do not ever withdraw your love from us. Baruch atah Adonai, who loves the people Israel. It's those two lines. Don't ever withdraw your love, and you, O God, are blessed because you have love. And now we prepare for the Shema, a little melody, Adonai Sfatai, preparing for the Shema on page number 41, our response by saying that we love God as well in a moment, but first this melody. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, B'chol levavcha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, b'shitecha b'veitecha, u'v'alektecha v'aderech, u'v'shachbecha v'kumecha, u'keshartam la'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'v'sharecha. A moment of silence, page number 42. Adonai Elohechem emet. And on page 44, the English side. Then Moses, Miriam, and the people of Israel joyfully sang to you, Umalchuta beratzon kiblu alehem, Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael, lecha anu shira, b'simcha rabah v'yamru chulam. Who is like you, Adonai, among the mighty? Who is like you, adorned in holiness, revered in praise, working wonders? Mi chamocha poelim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, noratilot al sefelem. Your children recognized your sovereignty as you split the sea before Moses. This is my God, they responded and said, Adonai will reign forever and ever. Malchutecha ra'u v'anecha, bokeh yam lifnei Moshe, zeli anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. And so it is written, Adonai has rescued Jacob and redeemed him from the hand of those more powerful than he. Baruch atah Adonai, who redeemed the people Israel. A few moments of silent prayer. L'hashkivenu on page 45, a prayer wherein we each reach out beyond ourselves, asking God to bring peace and reassurance to everyone else in the world, including us. Ufros olenu sukat shlomecha, baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. The top of page 46. V'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. V'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam, v'shamra b'nei Yisrael, et Shabbat, la'asot et Shabbat, ledorotam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'shamra b'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Vayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, v'shamra b'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah b'rotei b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael b'gala v'zman kariv v'imero amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach l'olam u'li'olmei almaya yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yinaseh v'yidadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'rechu le'lam karbakata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imero amen. Before we rise, turn for a moment to page number 49, which is the heart of the Shabbat Amidah, the heart of the prayer where you and I have a few moments of silent thought, standing in the presence of God. The heavens and the earth and all they contain were completed on the seventh day. God finished the work. We all know this. Then God blessed the seventh day, making it holy. On it, God ceased from all work of creation. We know all that. We've learned it ever since we were little ones. God stopped. And God viewed reality as no longer being something of reality, but of something of transcendental significance. Looking at the world, it's not just an amount to be appreciated with your eyes or felt with your fingertips, but the world itself bears spiritual significance, which we call holiness. And look at the next line. Our God and God of our ancestors embrace our rest. Stop. What does it mean to embrace our rest? It means that when you and I stop our ordinary behavior and we voluntarily withdraw from the ordinary routine for just a few minutes, Friday night or Shabbat morning, we are altering our behavior because we are aware that the world itself contains something of a spiritual quality named holiness. We modify our behavior so that we are in sync with the spiritual nature of the physical world. Wow. That's what Shabbat's all about. So we rise, a few moments of silent prayer, the traditional text, pages 47 through 52, or an opportunity to pause and reflect for a few moments of private silent prayer. page 54. Yitkara v'kara shemei Rabba, Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mavarach, L'olam li'olmei olmaya, Yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitparsei v'yitarav shmei kudasha brechu le'ela mincha berchata v'shirata tishbechata v'nechemata tam yomim v'yimero amen titkabel tzlodom v'tam d'chais v'kavish v'yimero amen yehi shmos v'yimero amen oseh shalom v'mama v'yaseh shalom olim v'yimero amen. Last week I shared a thought with those gathered here in the sanctuary, also those joining us on YouTube. That last week was the 3rd anniversary to the day of the shooting at the synagogue in Pittsburgh, the Tree of Life Synagogue, which is actually an umbrella of 3 different congregations in one large building. And everybody remembers where he or she was 3 years ago. And we received an outpouring of love that I had never anticipated. As I mentioned last week, this was standing room only, 600 plus people in this room, every chair in the building filled, and people standing to the walls, to the rafters. And members of a church even brought candles, 100 some odd candles, and they passed them out. We had a vigil in the parking lot, which I've never seen in our synagogue parking lot. And the outpouring of love was absolutely staggering. And I'll never forget it. We had members of quite a number of different congregations of clergy here on the Bema, and each one stepped forward and shared messages of love and support. And to hear 8, 10, 12 clergy representing different congregations, different churches, different denominations, different traditions, sharing messages of love from a synagogue Bema was as exceptional as the outpouring of all the people who chose to leave their busy schedules and come here into a synagogue. And we as Jews have often called out, where is the community when we are in need? And we felt it. And it wasn't just a one shot, because these are our neighbors, these are our acquaintances, these are our friends, and so we know that as the years go by, we continue to have these relationships. And it's those relationships that sustain us and support us. There's been a great deal of shooting these past years, and we've all seen sorrow and loss filling the newspaper accounts. It occurred to me a little after this experience of ours 3 years ago that it's not only enough for us, me, to be on the receiving end, but I need to be on the giving end as well. And so I made some inquiries, and I learned of and I found out about 2 clergy groups. And they received me and welcomed me with open arms, and I've been part of these 2 clergy groups for the past 2.5 years or so, one of which is entirely African American, one of which is largely African American. Largely African American, there are 2 to 3 whites. I'm one of the 2 to 3. And in the other African American group, I'm the only one. And no surprise, in both groups, I'm the only Jew. And I had to make it clear that as essential as it was for me and us to receive love and support and friendship, and the word fellowship is a very important word. In Hebrew and Yiddish, we call it chevra. As important as it was, as essential as it is for me and us as our synagogue to receive chevra, that's how important it is for me and our synagogue to dispense and share chevra, fellowship, friendship, respect for our fellow. And we've been learning a little bit about each other these past 2.5 years as we've gathered every once in a while, every week or two or a month for certain meetings, and we're working on a project. And both of these clergy groups are in one way or another affiliated with an effort, not only from our state, but across the country, to work with local civic organizations and to work with the local law enforcement and police departments to try to counter violence by reaching out to neighbors and acquaintances, people who live on blocks and on streets, and they may not all be bosom buddies, but they walk the same sidewalks, they breathe the same air. And we've been meeting with, as I said, members of law enforcement and the mayor and the mayor's staff. And these past few months, we've had more meetings. And in a week, we're going to have a kickoff event at a church. And then over the next number of months, we're going to continue to develop this program, which we're borrowing from a small city, Stockton, California, about 100,000 people in population, that's worked on a grassroots, you might say, mixed education social work program to help cut down on gun violence. And it's been fairly effective. And we're hoping that we can borrow this approach and incorporate it into certain neighborhoods throughout Mobile. So this coming Thursday, the 11th, at Stewart Memorial Church, which is on Martin Luther King Drive, they asked Rabbi Stephen Silverman to give one of the speeches. And frankly, I'm nervous because only once have I given a talk in what we say an African American church. It was a short greeting, and that was quite a number of years ago. So I figure if I can talk to my Jews all these years, then I can probably make it talking to some friends who are welcoming me onto their bima with respect and affection and understanding that we can all work towards making our shared world better. We welcomed people with different backgrounds onto our bima 3 years ago. It's not a one-shot deal. Being friends, even with people who are different, and we may not always agree on every element of life, is not something that happens just on a Thursday night for 1 hour. Being friends, being neighbors, is something that happens every single day over the long haul. And so you'll be hearing from me in my emails going on to next week about Stewart Memorial Church, which is on Martin Luther King Drive, Thursday night. It's not a hardcore press. It's a request. As we received friends, we're asking that we demonstrate our friendship to others as well. Because moving forward, we need to breathe that same air and remember how touching it was, how life-giving it was, how breath-giving it was when people came into our synagogue, and that's how we need to move forward. Thinking of moving forward, there's a line that comes to me from this week's Torah reading tomorrow morning. And you may remember that old man Isaac had 2 sons born to him. One is the elder twin Esau, and one is the younger twin Jacob. We don't know how many minutes were between the two. That's not mentioned in the Torah, but they were twins. And Esau, as the elder, was expected to receive a certain blessing by his father to be the leader of the clan moving into the next generation. And Jacob, the younger, was expected to not receive the blessing. And you recall, of course, that Jacob really wanted that blessing. And so what did he do? Do you remember what Jacob did? He dressed up wearing the clothes of his elder brother, and his mother put animal hide upon his shoulders and neck so that he would smell earthy, because Esau was a man of the field, whereas Jacob was a man living in the tents. And Jacob passed himself off as the elder. And Jacob successfully gets that blessing out of his blind, elderly father taking advantage of a vulnerability. And then a few minutes after that, he leaves. Esau comes in, learns of the deceit, and says, I'm going to kill my brother. And Jacob has to run away. And it strikes me that these are boys, twins. They shared the same blood. They shared the same world in utero. They came forth into the world. They shared the same breath, the same home, the same family interactions, but they weren't able to walk together. In fact, they were apart. And there was hostility and conflict for decades until eventually some of that began to subside and peter out. We have to learn from that. It's not only a fascinating, compelling story and account, a tradition. It's also a message. How do you and I walk forward in the world today, breathing the same air, living with the same people, with suspicion because they're not like us, or with an understanding that, indeed, we can be together? And that's what we're teaching. By receiving that experience 3 years ago, and by sharing that experience beginning this week and on into the future, may we learn again and again the importance of walking together with people who are different than ourselves and gaining that strength. May we be so blessed. And we all say, Amen. We rise now for the Aleinu. The Aleinu is in the Siddur on page 56 and 57, and we'll conclude the service in just a little bit, and then an opportunity again to make Kiddush and Motzi together, and we hope those who are joining in at home will join us for Kiddush and Motzi. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asan kgoye aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרה בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובי מרמים hu Eloheinu ein od emet malkeinu efes zulato kakatu b'torato v'yadata yom v'ashevota el levavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim mimol v'al haaretz mitachat ein od. Kakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai, le'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yihiyeh Adonai echad, Shema Echad. And now in a moment, the Mourner's Kaddish found here on page number 58. And we remember with great love members of our synagogue and our community, remembering Saul Brown, Isidore N. Loeb, Evelyn Bloom, Mose Zivitz, Abraham Sawolowski, William A. Lubell, Philip Silverstein, Bessie Wilson, Joanne Conlon, Jack Gerwich, Ginny Plodka, Max Levy, Rose Beskind, Brandy Gerwich, Florence Dorothy Posner. We extend our condolences to Alan Young, who just lost his sister, Linda Haskins, Yetta Lee. And if there's a name to be mentioned now, Paul Buckstein. And perhaps anyone mentioning a name at home as well. Yit Gadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabba, Amen. Be'alma Divara Chir Ute, V'yamlich Malchute. B'chaye Chon Uv'yom Echon, Uv'chaye Techol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uv'zman Kariv V'imeru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mivarach Le'olam Olalmei Olmaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yit'aleh V'yithalal Shemei Dekudesha B'richu La'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'amiran Ba'alma V'yimeru. Amen. Yehei Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Olenu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimeru. Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Olenu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimeru. Amen. Kol means all or every. The phrase Kol Yisrael means all of the Jewish people. And we say that phrase twice at the Kaddish. The last two lines, it's kind of like a double exclamation point. V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yisrael. We are praying for all of us in this room and simultaneously all of the Jewish people throughout the entire world. And Jewish people all over the world are praying each for its own community, but also simultaneously for all of us included. So Jewish people in Europe, Asia, Africa, North America, Israel are thinking about us as we're thinking about them. And may we gain strength and comfort from that. We'll conclude in just a minute with the Adon Olam in the Siddur on page 211, page 211, the Adon Olam. And as we're turning to page 211, the Adon Olam, just a couple of quick reminders, of course, that tomorrow morning, services from 10 to about 11:15, 11:30 in the morning. And tomorrow night, we have Zoom Abdullah at 7. Remember, tomorrow night, we turn our clocks back. You get an extra hour of sleep tomorrow night. Isn't that nice? An extra bonus hour of sleep. Or it could be an extra bonus hour of studying Torah or reading a Jewish book or spending time with a friend or making phone calls to neighbors, right? Texting a message to somebody who needs a little bit of a hug. There's so many things. What will we do with that extra hour tomorrow evening? So that's tomorrow. And Sunday morning at 11 a.m., we're honored and grateful. The temple has a lovely ceremony which began a few years ago, honoring our veterans, living and deceased. And we've been invited to the temple ceremony at the temple cemetery. That's Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Remember, change your clocks. Sunday morning at 11 a.m. We'll meet at the temple cemetery, and all those who served in any way as veterans are invited, and we wish to offer our gratitude to you. And please show up, hopefully a few minutes before 11 a.m. And after a brief ceremony, then members of the shul will go to the shul cemetery with flags, and we'll place flags at the graves of our veterans. And members of the temple will also go throughout the temple cemetery, placing flags at those graves. So it's a lovely and significant and essential expression of our gratitude, of the honor that will never fully be able to be repaid, because those people then and those people now are the backbone of our free society. That's Sunday morning, 11 a.m., reminding Sunday morning at 2 p.m., sponsored by and organized by the Federation at the Temple. Ivan Maisel recently wrote a book. It's just been launched. You may or may not know that Ivan and his wife Meg lost their son, unfortunately, tragically, to suicide 5 years ago. And Ivan has written a book about mental health, illness, and grief. And he's talking about that. And that's Sunday, day after tomorrow, at 2 p.m. at the Temple at the Temple in the sanctuary. And people are asked to wear a mask and be vaccinated. To come in at 2, he's going to be sharing some thoughts, and the book will be available for sale. And I haven't read it yet, but I'm told that it's a very powerful book. So let's please support the family, and let's make an additional overture by supporting Ivan and this book to try to improve the conditions of all of our loved ones who suffer from mental health issues, and to become additionally attentive to and attuned to those crises throughout our community. So a lot happening, especially Sunday morning, 11 a.m. at the cemetery, 2 p.m. at the temple itself, and the rest of the normal program, Monday Tanakh at noon, Tuesday Adult Hebrew at 3, and Tuesday the Spirit at 5, and the topic for Tuesday Spirit at 5 is honoring and remembering Kristallnacht, because that's Tuesday evening. With that, we'll conclude Adon Olam, page 211, and then Kiddush. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Li'etz Nasa V'Chefza Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'Yacharei Kichlot HaKol Lavado Yimloch Nora V'Hu Haya V'Hu Hoveh V'Hu Yiyeh B'Tifara V'Hu Yiyeh B'Tifara V'Hu Echad V'Yein Sheni Laham Shilo Lahachbira B'Li Reshit B'Li Tachlit V'Lo Ha'oz V'Hamisra V'Lo Ha'oz V'Hamisra V'Hu Eli V'Chai Goali V'Tzur Chevli B'Yed Tzara V'Hu Nisi Umanosli Menat Kosi B'Yom Mekra Menat Kosi B'Yom Mekra B'Yado Avkid Ruchi B'Eit Ishan V'Yaira V'Im Ruchi Gaviyati Adonai Li V'Lo Ira Adonai Li V'Lo Ira. Good Shabbos. We'll be making Kiddush in a moment. Again, if you have the Siddur, the Kiddush is found on page number 55, and I hope you have a glass of wine prepared at home. Wine or grape juice. They both work, wine or grape juice. And then we'll do the hamotzi together. So we're allowing people here in the sanctuary to step forward to the table, and they'll be able to pour for themselves a bit of grape juice, if they're interested, or wine. We'll make Kiddush together, and also the hamotzi. Remember, Kiddush is not the Borei Pri Hagafen. Borei Pri Hagafen is the blessing we sing when we drink wine, but Kiddush is a paragraph. And the main part about Kiddush is Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim, getting out of Egypt and remembering what it means to be free as Jews. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam borei peri hagofen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kitshana b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yava uv'ratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziad mitzrayim ki avanu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'yahava v'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Michael, do you want to lead the Hamotzi, please? Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Thank you for joining in. We hope that you are going to have a Shabbat of pause and of calm and of peace. You are loved and you are cared for. We appreciate you joining us. Until we see each other again, in Hebrew, lahit ra'ot, until we see each other again, Shabbat Shalom.